Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and we bring you the latest in everything cool every single day. Thank you so much for joining us on another adventure called EP Live. We've got a bunch of you guys in the chat right now, so we'll get to talking with you a little bit later on in the show. We have a jam-packed episode for you. Reviews, content, a guest, and a fantastic game to let's play and chat a little bit later on. But let's get started with your rundown. Today, our rundown is dedicated to Doongie Forever, who says the rundown is the best thing on YouTube. That earns you today's rundown right there, Doongie. After almost a year of delays, the Nintendo Switch Online subscription service will finally launch this September. It's basically the Switch version of PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Gold, which means users who want to access online games will have to pay a monthly subscription fee. $5 for 1 month. These are Canadian prices, by the way. $10 for 3 months or $25 for 1 year. There's also a family membership for a $45 a year cost, where up to 7 users can share the same account. That's got me, rubbing my chin beard there. I think I might be going for that one. Like other online services, Nintendo Switch Online will offer extras, including cloud saves, which means you'll finally be able to back up your Switch game data and access to a library of 20 classic NES games like Super Mario Bros. And the original Zelda. Nintendo hasn't said if games from other classic systems like the SNES will become available, but they have said that they're not going to include a traditional virtual console on the system, which means you'll have to subscribe to the online service to get the old games. Finally, the service will continue using the Nintendo Online smartphone app, which will be the only way to voice chat. So there's some great news in there, some not so good news, some ridiculous news, and it's a lot to unpack and a lot to talk about. And we're going to be talking about it with our guest today, who I will introduce to you after the rundown. But I think I'm going to pause on this right now, but it is interesting that Nintendo has finally entered the subscription fray, and you're going to be able to pay a price per your year of connection and get extras. I think that's important, and it's a very big move for another massive player in the video game industry. But we'll come back to this because it's a big story. Oh, now over in the world of high finance, this is another big story, and superheroes. Disney might not buy 20th Century Fox after all. Rival media conglomerate Comcast is reportedly planning to make an offer to buy Fox and its assets before the Disney deal is complete. If they do, it could force Disney to offer more money or walk away from the deal altogether. Whoever buys Fox will get access to its subsidiary studios, as well as its film library, including the first Star Wars movie, the Fox television catalog, including The Simpsons, and the big screen rights to Marvel characters like the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Deadpool, which Disney and Marvel obviously want. Unlike Disney, Comcast is a telecommunications giant that owns internet service providers and cable companies, which could open up antitrust problems if they try to buy Fox. They also own NBC Universal, and I think this is the key to the deal here. There are a lot of Fox properties at Universal theme parks, like the Simpsons ride. You've got the Fast and the Furious and stuff like that. Actually, that's a Universal property. But they have worked with Fox on different things. There's Marvel superheroes that have, the rights have been shared all over the place. But there are Marvel, theme park attractions in the Universal parks out there. And because of this, bounty of IPs, and there are already existing channels to capitalize on these things, this is a very attractive ingredient for Comcast, and also just for the competitive advantage of not letting Disney have the rights to all of these different characters and different intellectual properties. This is going to be an interesting situation, and I'm very curious to see how it develops. I can't see Disney letting this go. If this becomes a bidding war, I think Disney and Comcast will go back and forth until a big price is kind of settled on. These are massive properties that mean a lot to both entities. And if Disney gets these properties, anything is Fox owned and licensed to Universal for their theme parks could have major ramifications for what exists in those parks, because suddenly a lot of those properties could end up being on the Disney lots. Interesting days, and certainly there are some antitrust and monopoly type fears across both spectrums of this deal. Very curious to see how this all comes together. Now, Iron Man is going back in time to investigate one of his other big movie franchises. Now, we're not talking about Iron Man from the Avengers going back in time to save the Avengers or anything. Robert Downey Jr. is set to star in a third Sherlock Holmes movie, which will hit theaters in December 2020, 9 years after the last movie came out. Jude Law will be back as his sidekick Watson, although it's unclear if director Guy Ritchie will return as well. The first two films earned more than $500 million each, and along with Iron Man, helped propel Robert Downey Jr. back to the top. So it's a little surprising that it's taken so long for a third film to get made, but he has been pretty busy as Iron Man in a million movies, so I can understand why he hasn't been able to sort of dedicate like a year of his life to go and live in England and sort of take on this role. I think he's a terrific Sherlock Holmes, and I think it's hilarious that two fantastic Sherlock Holmes are in the Avengers with Benedict Cumberbatch and Robert Downey Jr., and especially the last movie having so many scenes going head-to-head against each other. I like the first movie a lot, the first Sherlock Holmes film. Obviously, it's more action-oriented because that's how Guy Ritchie kind of frames his flicks. He's also working, I think he's working on, he's not doing the Lion King movie, I think that's Jon Favreau, but Guy Ritchie is working on a big Disney animated to live action adaptation right now, and it's probably making him very busy. Talented director, doesn't always, what's he doing? Aladdin. Oh, he's doing the Aladdin movie, of course, which is, good luck. But Guy Ritchie doesn't always hit it out of the park, but he is super talented, and I have enjoyed, I enjoyed the first movie a lot, and I think there were elements of the second movie that were enjoyable, and I think Downey and Jude Law together are a pretty good combination. So I'm seeing this. So you guys might not, but I'm going. I'm excited. So 2020, poof, it's on my calendar. Now, audiences won't have to wait much longer for more Arrested Development. Netflix and Fox Television have announced that the long-awaited fifth season of the cult comedy series will be available to stream starting May 29th. They're capitalizing, I think, on Ron Howard directing Solo with that date. It's not all good news, though. According to The Hollywood Reporter, several cast members are battling to get extra compensation from 2013's fourth season, which was recently recut and re-released, so the actors are demanding more money from the episodes. They've turned 13 episodes into 22 to kind of get a better deal in syndication. And I don't think you can just do that and not give money to the people that are involved. That seems a little shady to me. On top of that, Jeffrey Tambor will appear in the new season despite troubling sexual assault allegations that caused him to be fired from his other streaming show, Transparent. Audiences will just have to decide for themselves if they still want to watch. Yeah, I think this is a very troubling element. I think it's going to be all over the news, and I think that Fox and Netflix are going to do everything that they can to kind of, respond to this and try to quiet down the people banging the drums against this. Anytime that you've got scumbags attached to these things, it's pretty hard to get super excited about it. It's hard to separate the person from the work sometimes, especially if it's assault allegations, So we'll see. We'll see if the fallout around all of this stuff on Transparent ends up really hurting Arrested Development. I'm a fan of that show. I'm a little behind, but and I'm still curious to see these things, and there's lots of great actors and lots of great work involved in these things, so I'm excited to see it, but yeah, I think the Transparent stuff is going to be a stink that Arrested Development does not need. It looks like we're finally going to be seeing more big exclusives on the Xbox One. It appears that Microsoft is building up a new game development team in Santa Monica. To create titles for the Xbox One. Several job postings from the company show that they're hiring new talent to create new franchises and ship AAA games, all of which will be based around original IPs. This indicates that Microsoft wants to increase production of new exclusives on the Xbox One and future platforms, which is good news. I say great news. The lack of first-party exclusives has been one of the biggest problems for the Xbox One, especially compared to all the exclusives on its rival, the PlayStation 4. Hopefully, we'll be seeing some cool new Xbox games at E3 next month. This is exactly what Microsoft needs. I think they have to have the specter and the shadow and the stench of the failure of Kinect in their rear view. They spent a lot of money trying to make that a technology that mattered to people, and ended up not mattering to that many people. It was too much too soon. The promises were too big to kind of, keep. But what it ended up doing is it really affected the sort of the financial sort of health and welfare, I think, of the Xbox game development division. And now that they have probably had to do a lot of write-downs on that technology, and they've had to rejigger their tech and bring us some excellent new machines in the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X. It is time for Xbox to come out swinging, and this is the E3 to do it. And frankly, if they don't, I think there's going to be real ramifications for the division at Microsoft. I mean, they have to step up to the plate, and they can't swing and miss anymore. There can't be a bunch of like, oh, that was pretty good, or oh, it's too bad it's not that good. They got to be awesome games, and they need to surprise us with some IP that we've never heard of, some names, some brands, some people. It's time to get excited about what Microsoft has got going for us, and it's all on you now, Xbox. Can't wait to hear what you've got in store for us. I'll probably get into that conversation a little bit with my guest, Sam from Ars Technica, who's joining me after we take a look at this day in everything cool. Welcome to This Day and Everything Cool for May 8th. On this day in 1912, one of the world's oldest movie studios was born. Film producer Adolf Zukor founded the Famous Players Film Company, which changed its name to Paramount Pictures 2 years later. Zukor had made a fortune investing in primitive Nickelodeon short films, and he founded Paramount as a way to create longer feature-length films, seeing the potential that they had with everyday consumers. The company's first films were released later that year. On May 8, 1958, a big screen legend was reborn. The British horror movie Dracula premiered in theaters, starring Christopher Lee as the famed bloodsucker. There had already been several Dracula film adaptations, but this was the first one to put a modern spin on the material, offering copious amounts of gore and nudity, or at least what was considered copious amounts at the time. This helped shape the horror genre for decades to come, and Christopher Lee's visceral portrayal of Dracula has been emulated by other actors ever since. Dracula was heavily censored in the UK when it was first released, but was finally released in its uncut version for the first time in 2007. They say you want a revolution? Well, on May 8th, 1976, you got one. The roller coaster New Revolution opened at Six Flags Magic Mountain in California, becoming the first modern roller coaster to have a vertical loop. Several early roller coasters in the Victorian era had attempted vertical loops, but none of them were very safe, and they didn't last long. The New Revolution was the first to do it reliably and allowed passengers to go through the death-defying loop at much faster speeds, 55 miles per hour. The trick was in the design of the wheels, which wrapped around the rails to lock the cars in place, allowing them to stay hugged to the track even when upside down. It was a smash success, and vertical loops have since become commonplace in modern roller coasters. Speaking of roller coasters, which could be the segue for every segment on EP Live, I have joined by a good friend of mine in the video game community, somebody that has reported on all kinds of developments across games and popular culture for Ars Technica. This is Sam Machkovech, who I last spent a good portion of my time playing Destiny 2, sitting right beside, and we enjoyed that experience quite a bit. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Oh man, I remember when Destiny 2 was an exciting thing to look forward to.
Yes.
Back before they forgot how quality of life works over there.
I know, right? Oh yeah, they must just be killing themselves to add in new content over. It's a big problem in the video game industry, isn't it?
Yeah, they're doing their best.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, the big news today, and why I wanted you to come on the show and talk to us, Sam, is the Nintendo online services announcement. Obviously, the pricing is out there, the availability information is out there, and also the announcement of the lack of virtual console in the foreseeable future, at least for the Nintendo Switch. How did all of these announcements kind of hit home for you?
Well, it was interesting because we had already gotten a bunch of this information already. We knew that they were going to come in with this $20 a year price point. They'd even announced that, I want to say in a Wall Street Journal interview a long time ago, just getting that number out there for a much lower price, with that including certain features. And those have trickled out a bit more. We knew about this virtual console fake Netflix style thing, where there would be games that came with that paying subscription. So if you paid your $20 a year, you would get access to various NES games. And now we have that list of 20. Oh, I'm sorry, that we know 20 will be there at launch, and we've gotten a list of 10 of those. But it took some follow-up questions for us to find out that we wouldn't be getting it standalone dedicated quote unquote virtual console service that we're basically going to get these NES games included if you pay, and that's it, which means no carrying over from either Wii U, Wii, or 3DS purchases. You're just sort of stuck without knowing what's going to be coming. And I have so many questions because that doesn't mean we won't be getting older games, but it does make us wonder, are they going to come? Are we going to get a whole bunch of Super Nintendo, Game Boy, NES, and so on kind of systems like we have in the past? Is that changing? Is that dead? There's still way too much left to be questioned than answered, but I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the major concerns with this idea is that we're going to have to always be online with our Switches in order to play some of these classic games, which kind of sucks, right? Like, we likely won't be able to play these classic NES games that are offered at launch on airplane trips, which is where the Switch becomes the most shining platform available, right?
And there's a chance that Nintendo will get that kind of thing straight. That being said, Nintendo is also the company that put out its companion smartphone app, which is required for chatting. That's still been a mess over all this time. So it's very hard to extend a benefit of the doubt to Nintendo and say, oh, they'll make sure to allow, for example, 72 or 96 hours of offline time before you have to talk to a server again. That's absolutely up in the air. I mean, goodness, the PlayStation Vita even allowed that sort of offline access to PlayStation Plus fare, and you'd like to think Nintendo can do the same, but that will definitely remain to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's good news because there's extra value for the costs that we have all started to kind of accept with console gaming online. And I think that PlayStation Plus does a great job of giving you extras for your money, and so does Xbox Live Gold. And this is good news for that. It's less money, and it's sounds like you get a lot of content. And Nintendo has been pretty good at giving you lots of little extra bits and pieces, but they have been incredibly evasive about the idea of carrying over stuff that you've already purchased. And they have been very good at selling us games over and over again. So I guess we got our answer now, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, they want us to keep on buying whatever miniature system they might have come out. Clearly, those are doing well, and there's no reason for them to stop pushing that. But I think they really have an opportunity to open this sort of stuff up, to look at the market and say, people desperately want this content, either on a Nintendo device, on a smartphone, or quite honestly, illegitimately. And I think that that's a great chance for them to look at it and go, you know what? If you guys want to buy it again, we'll let you at least do that, and that may very well happen. Or some sort of reward or understanding of what's been purchased previously. I mean, goodness, right now, all I can think about is what, if anything, are we going to get for GameCube Virtual Console? Now, remember, the Tegra chip that's inside your Nintendo Switch, that can play GameCube fair. And we know this because Twilight Princess came out in China exclusively for Tegra devices. And it works. So you'd like to think that they can just get, for example, Super Mario Sunshine up and running again for new fans without a ton of legwork to, quote-unquote, remaster it the way the Wind Waker got upsampled and retreated over for the Wii U. So I would really love for them to take an opportunity sooner than later to let us know that we can buy older software in a legitimate fashion and keep on playing it forever on a Nintendo console, as opposed to feeling like we're bad for wanting to find one way or another to get that fixed.
Or having to find the hardware to be able to play these games. I mean, one of the things this prompted a tweet from me today, because as I think about it, I mean, we are, as all of these companies are subscription-based online, and they've got your regular sort of cash coming in every month, the move is going to be, even a bigger deal in video games to get people to buy titles on their digital stores. And if we are losing the access to these games off of these stores every console generation, that's just not acceptable anymore. And Microsoft's actually making some really great moves right now, allowing us to play, for PR purposes alone, just the ability to pick up one of our old Xbox original discs and stick it into our Xbox One is such a cool thing. And I feel like all the other companies should be doing something similar.
I wish they were as well. And I think, we talked briefly on Twitter, and this is why we even came on, because the market is kind of speaking, because you've got PlayStation 4 and Switch, which are moving off shelves and have terrible terrible public facing personas about what you can do with your old purchases on those hardware.
Yeah.
Whereas Microsoft, which is at least in the, I mean, I guess everywhere in sort of a last place position, they're still moving systems, they're still selling. But as a last place company, they have sort of a reason to get out there and say, you know what, these older pieces of software are going to work. And not only that, get on that Xbox One X if you want to play, your older Panzer Dragoon game with incredible super scaled resolution and all that sort of stuff. And that's great. But I can't do the same thing with PlayStation 3 games unless I'm using PlayStation Now and jumping into a cloud service. And even then, I'm still having to pay for stuff that I already bought before.
Yeah, right. It's not just your online fee. You also have to pay another PlayStation Now fee, it's kind of crazy.
It's just there's a lot of this sort of what I feel like is ultimately anti-consumer, because there's a chance to really hug people to say, we've got your money, and if you stay on our ecosystem, you'll probably keep giving us money.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that Xbox is there. I think that's pro-consumer makes companies money is what we've seen time and time again.
Yeah.
And it's good to see at least the last place person punching up for our benefit, because I want to play those older games.
Well, and also to have Phil from Xbox go out and just say emphatically that the preservation of those classic titles is incredibly important to the company. That's a big deal. That's a really, really big deal. It's not that I don't think that PlayStation or Nintendo don't value their archive or their older library at all. They do, and they find ways to resell it to us. But I feel like that preservation of existing sort of content and data that you already own is incredibly important, it's a valuable it's a valuable give back from the corporation that you are investing in, right?
I would say that I think it's imperative that we have ways to play original code whenever possible. The Shadow of the Colossus remake, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah.
I also think it makes some really deliberate art decisions, and I think 10, 20, 30 years down the line, it should be easy for people to play that original code, look at that original artistic intent, and also get a chance at the remaster and things like that.
Right.
And so moves like this seem to push away from that. Nintendo is in a position to either play some of the older code or package stuff up in a sort of remastered or bundled in a little plastic box way. Because, you grab your Super Nintendo Classic and it's cute and it's convenient, but it's running on emulation. It's not pure code. There's all these little different ways that older software preservation can go awry. And I'll tell you, that Xbox One backwards compatibility stuff is really good at preserving original intent and using simple things like the way they handle textures in this way that doesn't mess up the original vision but cleans it up for a newer, nicer television. It's just awesome. And so I'm glad they're doing it, and all we can do as critics and fans is say, awesome that they're doing it, support it, and buy it.
Yeah, and it's just fun to go back into those games, man. I've streamed Panzer Dragoon, and today we're going to be taking a look at Burnout Revenge and looked at SSX3. Valuable, important stuff. Okay, but let's look to the future a little bit, because I think we're of the same mind here. But let's talk about E3. We're just starting to kind of make our predictions and things like that, but it's coming. The behemoth is headed our way. Why don't you give me 3 predictions that you've got for E3 this year?
It's starting to get tough, Victor. I don't know about you, but my inbox is filling up with things that have non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality. There's little bits here and there. So I have to be careful. But first off, we do know something in the way of Smash Brothers from Nintendo is coming. Yeah. They've not been shy about having an invitational where people will be able to play, I believe, the newest version of whatever it will be titled. We know many characters' silhouettes appeared in that splashy reveal. We know the Splatoon shooters kids. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking on their squid kids.
Inklings.
Yeah, Inklings. They'll be in there. I think that'll be really fun, and that's just going to be an easy sort of path. And my question is whether or not Nintendo will use that opportunity to also simultaneously unveil Melee. I'm not saying that I have any information in either way. This is wishful thinking. But like I said, the Tegra chip is really good with GameCube software. We've seen it. And I think that sort of simultaneous reveal would not eat into sales of a new Smash. I have no reason to believe that will definitely happen, but I'm putting that out there as a question mark of what, if anything, from the GameCube era will we see. So
you don't think it would eat into sales? I think people would go,
no, I think
they'd want both.
I don't know that they would use E3 as the stage to say that, but it would be a really interesting surprise and way to push sort of a viral speech. And because Melee is still played in a huge way, and Nintendo's starting to pay more attention to that streaming stuff, and they always say, just wait, and we hear you, and we hear you.
That's
so
cool.
If they're doing a Smash Invitational at E3, that's an opportunity for them to talk about Smash and esports, because those are hand in hand in a big way, bigger than ARMS and bigger than any of other Nintendo esports properties. So there's sort of a number one thought.
Ooh, I like it.
Number two is that if we don't get something big and Halo related at this E3, then 343 is going to be disbanded because it's been long enough. That doesn't mean it needs to be a Master Chief first-person, big old gotta be Halo 6 or whatever the heck they would call it.
Yeah.
But I just think it's insane to imagine an E3 without something like that.
Right.
And I imagine that'll go hand in hand with more on the progress they've made over there on the Master Chief collection. It's been 4 years, and they're finally putting it back together and getting the fixes, and they've been really vocal at their development blog about progress on that. So I don't think that's going to be like a huge reveal about Master Chief Collection, perhaps a date or a window, but I see Halo figuring in a big way because that's the conversation as of late is what are the big Microsoft exclusives. It hasn't been great. I mean, the Xbox Game Pass I think has awesome stuff, but everyone has talked about that being a thing they're flagging behind. So that and some sort of a new IP surprise, what that would be, I don't know. That's totally up in the air because there's so many different moving parts. Remedy, for example, is not quite affiliated with Microsoft anymore, but they still have that relationship. So who knows if they come up with something in that regard or some other franchise we haven't heard of from a long time. But I do see Halo hand in hand with some other new IP or recognizable big thing.
Awesome. One more.
And then I think Last of Us 2 is just going to get something huge. I would not be surprised to see the Sony keynote stage just curtains open and some incredibly long, detailed dialogue and action-filled sequence that just shows how far Last of Us 2 is coming. Plus Spider-Man. I mean, the Sony stage can take those two things that we already know about, give us long, detailed cinematic gameplay sequences, and everyone's going to go, yay, they win. Beyond all the other stuff affiliated, who knows what we're going to hear about the Kingdom Hearts franchise, about Final Fantasy. There's a lot that Sony already has just in its sort of umbrella of first and third party that's already been shown at other stages. So I just think it's a question of, how much we can ingest at the Sony stage before we explode. I imagine it'll be huge because I think this is the last big PlayStation 4 E3.
Yeah.
We're probably not going to hear about PlayStation 5, but the rumblings for the next gen are coming, and so I think this is going to be the year where the entire PlayStation 4 portfolio of what is and what will be revealed.
That's a pretty big announcement. That's a pretty big prediction. I like that one very much. Sam, this was fantastic, brother. We'll have to have you on the show again soon, okay?
Always happy to be on. Thanks for having me on, Victor.
All right, Matt. You have a great day. We'll see you very soon. Probably next week, I think. Yeah.
Sounds like it. Yeah. Later.
All right. We're going to move from some video game talk, and we're going to take a look at the review of Batman Ninja.
Where am I?
So it's hit Blu-ray today, and I finally got a chance to check out Batman Ninja. This is the latest from Warner Brothers Animation and DC Comics, and it's a joint venture with a Japanese animation studio to craft an anime-infused movie around Batman, and it's absolutely insane, this film. It doesn't make a lick of sense, and when you watch it, you're just like, wow, they really just went to town with all kinds of crazy ideas here. It's all about this idea of Batman and his rogues gallery being transported to feudal Japan, and Gorilla Grodd has crafted this time travel machine that has sent everybody back.
We're only in this mess because of you, Grodd. Why did you invent that time machine in the first place?
It just is a crazy story that really kind of leans heavily on all of the silly tropes and the silly kind of superficial things that we know about these characters. The Joker's predilection for laughing gas and his kind of twisted relationship with Harley Quinn, who also gets transported back here. Bane is just this big-ass, sumo wrestler slash E-Honda from Street Fighter kind of character. The Penguin's doing this, and it's like right out of the old Batman TV series from the 60s.
Who else made the time jump?
Tony Hale of Arrested Development fame. He's actually pretty good as the Joker here, I have to say.
Now what?
Roger Craig Smith is the voice of our Batman. If you listen to the Americanized voices, there's also a Japanese audio track with subtitles, which I think probably makes a little bit more sense contextually than what you're hearing when you're watching all of these different back and forths between these different characters.
I'm good right here.
As good as the voice acting is, and there are some solid performances in here, it's almost like you want to watch this thing on mute and make up your own story, because it feels like that's kind of how the story was crafted for this anyways, and just sort of watch these visuals and kind of be taken aback. It's not a great story, and it doesn't really please you on the storytelling front, but there's so much talent involved in the creation of these visuals, and it just goes so over the top and insane that it does kind of charm you. You watch it and it kind of washes over you, and you're like, I don't believe any of this. There's no emotional connection here for me. But holy crap, it just looks so silly and so insane, but also so freaking cool. Aesthetically, it's really impressive, but it just feels such like such whimsy and kind of a joke compared to some of the darker, more effective animated movies that have come out from DC and Warner Brothers in the past, that it's a little bit of a letdown. I'm a huge Batman fanatic, as you guys know. I was entertained, but yeah, I think this is just really an excuse to kind of have this cool aesthetic and this cool look sort of planted on familiar Batman bad guys and Batman moments and characters that we've seen before, and they've tried to mash together something that doesn't really coalesce. It doesn't really satisfy across all of the things that you want it to.
Are you sure you don't want to reconsider?
Still, an interesting exercise. If you're a Batman completionist or a Batman, super fan like myself, I think you will find some joy in here. But you will also be scratching your head at big chunks of Batman Ninja. I'm going to give the movie a 7 out of 10, but there are a lot of mercy points in there because of how cool it looks. Speaking of incredible artwork and being very painterly, we have the perfect buried treasure to take a look at today. Today's Buried Treasure is also one of my very favorite DS games, which you can, of course, play on your 3DS. It's Kirby Canvas Curse. It came out in 2005, and in this game, you don't actually control Kirby. You control a little sort of paintbrush kind of thing that leaves this rainbow line that kind of adjusts the angle at which Kirby can transfer himself across the screen and across the different challenges that you might face, some of the enemies that you might have to defeat, and some of the bosses that you're going to fight. There's this entity called Drossia, which basically turns the world into a canvas and turns Kirby into a little ball, and you got to protect Kirby, but you also have to learn his momentum and his abilities by sort of painting around him and creating loops and ramps and things like that to give him momentum so that he can get from point A to point B and complete all of the challenges and collect all of the medals that he can. Very original game design. It does tax you a little bit because you haven't really played a game like this. Now they've created a sequel for the Wii U called Rainbow Curse, which is also terrific. But this game really kind of set a tone and just came out of the blue and surprised everybody and was just a wonderful experience that's so worth going back to and re-exploring. And in fact, Nintendo, I'm going to give you this free advice. This would be an incredible game to port over to mobile devices. I think people would go nuts for a game like this where they could draw all the stuff on their with their fingers on their smartphone screens or their tablets. This would be a big hit. So Nintendo, if you're listening, you should do this. Until that time, you got to go and find this cartridge and check this out. This would be a great game to reload on your 3DS. Kirby Canvas Curse is an absolute buried treasure. Emphasis on the treasure. It's not every day that we get a new Donkey Kong game out there, so we thought we'd do something a little bit different and a little special when I'm going to review Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze for the Switch in a second. But I said to Blake, why don't we dig into our archive a little bit and take a look at some other Donkey Kong stuff that we might have, like this classic review of Donkey Kong Country.
So, what games are we doing this week?
Donkey Kong 64.
Long and boring and not enough action and adventure. What's your take on it?
You may be surprised. I actually wasn't blown away by Donkey Kong 64.
I was expecting to get blown away. I love Donkey Kong Country. I thought they were going to make the next version of Donkey Kong Country on the N64, and it was so not that.
There's awesome graphics in this game, but they're spread out. Like, it takes a long time to get to the really cool areas. It's a game of collecting stuff, so once you've collected all your bananas or weaponry, you're just walking through empty areas. I did like the multiplayer gaming in there. I thought the multiplayer is probably the most enjoyable part of it.
I didn't like that either. I mean, two monkeys, there's no map, so you have no idea where your other monkey is.
I don't have a problem with the fact that they're cartoon monkeys. I think you're probably sick of these little cartoon characters.
I didn't mind that as much as just the controls. I didn't like the controls in the multiplayer. What would you give this on a scale of 1 to 10, though?
8.5. Supposedly the biggest game of the year for Nintendo. I say go for Jet Force Gemini over this one.
Technically, it's a great game. Fun factor, way low. Bored the skulls out of me. Graphics weren't that great. Didn't like the controls. 5.5.
Wow.
Very average.
It's not average.
At best.
No way. It's not an average game.
Technically, it's better.
No way.
Hey,
You're
I play
totally
games.
off base.
I play games because they're fun, not because they're technically great.
Of course, but
I didn't have fun playing this.
There is lots of fun
I didn't
in this
have
game.
fun
There's
playing
lots
this.
of fun in this game. It's
Well,
just
maybe you found some, but I didn't.
There's long stretches in between the fun.
Yeah,
And
it's long
that's my
stretches,
problem.
right. No.
It deserves higher than 5.5.
It doesn't.
You could just tell by that look on Tommy's face that he was not amused by the cutesy, cartoony Donkey Kong 64. And I said Donkey Kong Returns or Donkey Kong Country. I don't know what. I said the wrong thing, but it was Donkey Kong 64. And those are always super fun to take a look back on. And we also have another classic review to take a look back on, but this was for the Wii U, and it was for the first time that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze came out. Here's Scott and I.
If you like bananas and really challenging video games, you have come to the right place. It's Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I've been hearing about this game for a couple of years now. It's our old friends at Retro down in Texas by way of Nintendo. Donkey Kong's back. Is this a good thing, Victor Lucas?
He's in HD, and I would like to make that the catchphrase of the show. If you like bananas and really challenging video games, you're watching the right show. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is not a surprise. It's not a game where you're going, oh my God, I can't believe they conceived of this idea. But it's really fun and it's really addictive, and you're gonna hate big chunks of the time you spend redoing levels.
Yeah.
But you are not gonna be able to stop redoing levels because it actually just gets into your bloodstream and makes you want to play it over and over again. It's challenging, but it's so well made, so well crafted. This is a game that will get on your nerves. It's going to ask a lot of you.
It asks too much, I think.
Yeah, and Donkey Kong, he kind of stumbles and bumbles a little too much on his own. You really are at the mercy of your partner, Monkey. You really need Dixie or Diddy or Cranky with you.
How alone do you feel?
And when you lose them, you feel so fragile.
Vulnerable.
You know you're gonna fall. You know you're gonna miss a jump. I love the freezy type nuances that are in this game, which could be a little further extended, but I like that you're fighting giant penguins and walruses, and you have this Norse village that you get into for a little while. I liked all of that stuff.
I feel like they don't extend that enough,
No.
especially for a game called Tropical Freeze, because especially in the early levels of the game, every now and then you'll see a penguin for no reason whatsoever, and they're like, oh yeah, they're trying to keep that motif going, but I think they're failing a little bit. But at the end of the day, I have to say the thing that really breaks my heart is the difficulty. And you know what? I finished all the games in the series, and I finished the first one on the Wii that Retro Studios did a few years back, and it almost killed me. I'm getting old. I don't have time to do this a million times. I'm going through balloons like you wouldn't believe.
You're sweating buckets right from the get-go on this thing. I'm starting to play some of these Nintendo games with my little girl, and she loves Mario. She loves the Mario 3D World game. I played a little Donkey Kong with her, and there's so much of this game that feels like an accident. And she just sat and watched me get through a level, and she's, what happened? She had no idea what she had just seen.
I don't think the aesthetic of it all is better than Rayman Legends,
No.
which is a better game and a
so
more
is Mario.
fascinating game and a more forgiving game and a more playable game. This, I just felt like it just kept pushing me away. As charming and as colorful and as lively as all these character models are, all the sound effects in the game, the terrific music, the earworms, you can't stop hearing the music in this game. As inviting as this entire package is, I'm on the outside looking in. I can't do it. I can't do this again. I can't go through what I went through last time. It's like NAMM for me.
It's kind of a niche title in a way too, right? Because it's really tapping into that nostalgia and it's really tapping into some tried and true platformer mechanics that you're gonna have to be very intimately familiar with, and you have to bring your game to play this.
My favorite aspect of the game, though, is whenever Donkey Kong dies and he has these animations and sound effects when he does this thing where he spins around in a circle.
All right, what are you gonna give Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze?
It's too brutal, man. I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10.
No, I still really like it, but it is brutal.
finish it.
It's so hard. It's gonna get an 8 from me.
Oh man, it is like walk down memory lane. All my co-hosts are on EP Live today. I missed that big lug. I hope Scott is doing well. He's living in Toronto these days, and we'll have to have him on the show again very soon. Hopefully I'll be seeing him at E3. And you know what? That was the Wii U version. Scott didn't enjoy it all that much, but I have had a chance to review it for the Switch. Let's see what I thought of the new one. It's a beautiful day out here in the jungles of New Westminster for me to review Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Nintendo Switch, and you're saying, I've heard this game. This game came out before, and it did. It was a Wii U game that Nintendo has politely ported to the Nintendo Switch, and it's a terrific fit on the Nintendo Switch. It looks amazing on a big screen TV, and it looks like something you want to just hold up and point to everybody and say, look what I'm playing, when you've got it on the Switch in portable mode, because it looks like a cartoon come to life. Beautiful game. Retro Studios is the developer, obviously lifting on the success of the first Donkey Kong Country title that they made for the Wii back in the day. It's very difficult in terms of getting from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen and collecting all the things, all the puzzle pieces and all the balloons and all the coins and finding all the secrets that you want to. But Nintendo wisely put in a sort of more approachable difficulty setting. You can choose to play this game as Funky Kong, and you see barrels all the way through this thing with F and K on there. And my little girl, my 6-year-old daughter, kept trying to actually read the F and K. So she was, you know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of that beside me going, okay, maybe they should have thought that through a little bit. But Funky Kong is a really cool addition to this game. He's straight out of the 90s, which is awesome. He's got a surfboard and he's got retro 90s sunglasses. And on that surfboard, not only can he surf down waterfalls and things like that, but he can actually flip it around with his feet and it becomes a bit of a helicopter blade, and it will slow his fall. And which gives you some breathing space. It also gave him the ability to bounce off of spiky areas, of which there are many in this game. And he's got 5 hearts, so right out of the gate, your life is a little bit better and a little bit easier if you're playing as Funky Kong. Now, you could play as traditional Donkey Kong, and you could outfit yourself with help from Diddy Kong or Dixie Kong. And the levels are mostly spellbinding. I would say that one of the qualms I have about this game, there are a few things that I wish Nintendo had added to this title, is that there are levels that are forgettable. There are levels that they feel like you're retreading through themes or challenges or little sort of environmental puzzle pieces or elements that we've seen before, and they're just sort of stuck together to extend the life of the game and to give you some new challenges and new areas and stuff. But then there are levels, like the level where everything is sort of limboized and you're playing in silhouette, and it's just hypnotic. It's just gorgeous. Everything is obviously taken from the idea of careening through nature and using all of the limbs of trees and the vines and the things that are at Donkey Kong or Funky Kong's disposal. And it's elegantly crafted. But we are also doing stuff that we have done forever in Nintendo 2D action-adventure games like this. You know, we're going from the left side of the screen to the right. Sometimes we're on a rhinoceros, which is really fun. It gives you a little more power to bust through stones and things. Sometimes we're on a minecart, which is incredibly frustrating. You'll be screaming at the wall, but it's also super fun. And sometimes we're on barrels that are shaped like rocket ships and trying to collect everything as things fly by too quickly. But there's a lot of like, and so we do that a lot. And I feel like, you know, we're in a post-Super Mario Odyssey, post, you know, Breath of the Wild. And I keep calling those two games out, but Nintendo has given us that. And so the opportunity for, you know, more, and the opportunity to kind of blow our minds with expansiveness and originality and new ideas is sitting right there. And if not that, the other opportunity would have been to package this game with the, you know, original Wii game, Donkey Kong Country Returns, as part of this deal, as a remaster for the Switch, or include all of the old original Super Nintendo games that Rare made as part of this deal, as, you know, sort of a Donkey Kong Country collection. I think that would have been incredible as, you know, this new offering from Nintendo. Now, clearly, that might not be the best business idea because this is a great standalone experience unto itself, and many people did not play this when it was out on the Wii U because we all know the install base of that platform was not huge. But I do feel that Nintendo has sort of said, look, we can make anything. And this feels safe. It feels safe. It feels fantastic. It's super addictive. It's super fun. It's worth the dollars. You've got tons and tons of levels and lots of replayability, you know, and there are lots of surprises and some cool new additions. I feel like if you've played it already on the Wii U, you don't need it on the Switch. But there are lots of great elements in here that will entertain you. And I certainly like this more than the recent Kirby game that we played. But I still feel that there could have been a bit more in this package. Still, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is a very good pickup for the Nintendo Switch. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. All right, so an 8 again for Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I was lost in the chat right there. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much to Paul Casilio. You are a very sweet person. Thank you for sponsoring EPN. And for all of you for joining us today. Incredible stuff. So now we, actually, I think it's Spidey82's birthday. I think there was a request for him to get a shout out today. So here's your shout out. Didn't end up in the rundown, but still, happy birthday. And now's your chance to ask us any questions or comments. Blake, my friend, is going to join us, and we're going to play a little Burnout Revenge. What a great day to get an awesome classic Burnout game. So I'm going to try my best to pay attention. You let Blake and I know if the audio is too loud. It's a lot of crashing, a lot of explosions, a lot of this is Burnout, guys.
Hi everyone.
This is an incredible game. Actually, I'm going to take this out so I can hear you a little bit better. I just crashed, but that's fine.
We should say that this is the 360 version of the game.
360 version of the game. Xbox One made it backwards compatible today, so you just stick it into the machine and you download the code, and boom, you're playing a classic game. And this was the HD re-release of the original Xbox game, which we don't know if
came out 2005 on the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Came out 2006 on the Xbox 360, and now it's out on the new Xbox One.
Yes. Xbox One it's always going to piss us off that it's called the Xbox One.
But yeah, we checked. It doesn't look like the original Xbox version is backward compatible, but we're not sure. We're not officially saying it isn't, so
yeah,
it might be, but probably not.
So I think with Revenge, what Criterion wanted to do was go even bigger and more hardcore on the crashes. So this is like the first thing that I'm doing, and it's level by level basically, and it's one of the reasons why I love the Burnout 3 and 4. This was the fourth one, is that they're like you unlock stuff and you go from challenge to challenge to challenge. It's not open world, but it's expansive and thrilling. And I love this freaking game. I think I gave it an 11 out of 10.
Did you review it with Tommy?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember reviewing that in front of, it's called Rogers Stadium now. I don't know what it was called back then.
We have a few people who had asked us what happened to Kratos. Should we tell them?
Oh, it's so heartbreaking. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I was in here yesterday. Vic wasn't here, and I was sitting over at my desk, and all of a sudden I hear a crash, and I look over, and Kratos just fell. Like,
My God.
There wasn't a
baby.
draft. I don't know how, it must have just been off balance slightly, and I didn't knock the table. I wasn't even near it, and it
He
fell.
made sure to text me that. I didn't touch the table.
Honestly, I wasn't. And
I left him standing in a precarious position. He had his 1 foot back, and it was teetering. But his axe broke. That's the only thing that broke.
he landed right on the floor, and his axe broke.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to glue it, but I've already reached out to NECA to see if they have any extra axes that they can send me. It's my favorite toy. I love that freaking thing. It's so good.
You could just glue it. It's not...
I'm gonna try to glue it, but you know, I'm like, it's not the same if it's glued. You know, it's so weird.
You could even put the brake in his fist, so it's like he's holding the brake part.
It's true. Yeah, it's not as bad as it could be, man. Like if one of his arms or legs broke, I would have. I don't know if I could have done the show today. I've been hyperventilating.
Patrick Furtado is asking, do you think the PS5 will have backward compatibility?
150,000%. I think backwards compatibility. I mean, the reason why I tweeted that
Do you think it
today,
will or it should?
It will.
It
will.
The PS5.
100%. Every PlayStation 4 game is going to be playable on the PlayStation 5.
But with older, like PS3, PS2?
I don't know, but PS4 will be backwards compatible.
Okay.
They are not going to do this again. And honestly, I don't think Nintendo will do this again. Because now they got us, right? Now they got us on our monthly accounts, and we're always in, and we're never leaving, you know, because if you leave, you lose access to all those games that you downloaded for free. So, yeah, they're going to offer backwards compatibility. It's going to be an explicit part of the code, and you know, I think they've been building towards that. But I also feel like we're going to be building towards an all-you-can-eat subscription model soon as well, with a collection of classic and original games. I think the idea of owning media is quickly being taken away from us, whether we wanted to or not.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you never really owned it in the first place.
No.
You're just
You
licensing the right
it.
to...
Yeah, licensing the right to enjoy it.
Tiago Santos says, or asks, Vic, what is your favorite Sega game?
Oh, God, that's an incredible question. Oh, man, that is a very difficult one to I think it probably has to be, because, you know, I bought a Genesis almost the day it came out.
I'm assuming he means first-party Sega games, not just games published on.
Yeah. Oh, man, there's so many amazing games. I think it's got to be like the original Sonic the Hedgehog on the Genesis. And that was a game that I played, what's going on, with my roommates. I was living in a house in Vancouver, and we were all young. And there were 7 of us in the house, and we paid about $200 a month each in rent. But I brought the Genesis home with Sonic the Hedgehog, and all 7 of us were in the basement playing it together and singing the songs, or you know, adding words to the theme music and everything. It's a very idyllic kind of memory of playing the Genesis originally.
Mine is Night Trap.
Is it Night Trap?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I love Outrun, and I love Virtual Fighter. I love the Crazy Taxi, Panzer Dragoon Saga, and Panzer Dragoon Orta. Rally, what was the rally game?
Sega Rally Revo?
Sega Rally, yeah, love that.
Or no, because the whole series was called Sega Rally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Revo, I think, might have been the last one.
I think Sega Rally on the Saturn was pretty phenomenal for me. And also Daytona USA. I love the Yakuza games, too.
Did you mention Panzer Dragoon?
Yep.
Okay.
Sega rocks, man. They're their own thing, you know? They're so unique. And I really hope we get an awesome... I know we're getting the Genesis Mini, but I really hope we get a Dreamcast Mini at some point.
Probably have to wait
we
a
will.
while for that.
We will. Give it a couple of years.
Samian111 is asking, have you played Danger Zone by the former Burnout developers? Samian, when did this game come out?
No, I think it's a PC game, and I don't think it lived up to expectations. Like I don't remember there being a lot of buzz or hype for it, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Am I supposed to be racing or? I'm racing. Okay.
Right, well, I guess his question was, did you play it? And I guess the answer
I have
is
not
no.
played it, no. Because I heard it was more of like Burnout Crash, more top-down. It wasn't this. And so...
Oh, I remember this game.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I didn't really
It
go
is
for
kind of top-downy, yeah.
Yeah.
And what was that game that they were Criterion was making for EA that got canceled? It was some big open world racing
game. I can't
game.
remember what it was called. Yeah,
It might not have had a name yet.
Yeah, it was just going to be all kinds of vehicles.
Yeah, it was like going to be cars and helicopters.
Didn't Pure come out and it was kind of like that?
They might have announced this after Pure.
Okay.
This was announced in like 2014. It's pretty recently considering, and then they just kind of quietly canceled it a year later. Which seems like, why would... It was so weird because they announced the game before it was ready to be announced and then canceled it. Why not just not have announced it in the first place?
I know.
It seems kind of silly.
EA's an interesting company, right? It's an interesting... I've said this before, and I don't want to dog them because you guys should know I have tremendous love and respect for Electronic Arts, and they've done so much great stuff for this business, but I just think it's preposterous that their motto is players first. It's like... What else would you be as a video game company? Why would you even mention the fact that you have to think about your audience at all?
Yeah.
Like, what else would... Of course it's
We
players
have to think about our
first.
customers. Yeah. Go figure. Well, because they think about their shareholders.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
it's-
technically their first responsibility.
Yeah.
We won't get into
But
that.
players first is like that. They should just scrub that out.
If you have to say it.
You don't never have to say it. No. That should be an internal thing that never gets repeated.
They should have
outside.
players first written on a whiteboard somewhere in an office.
That's right. Yeah. It should not be something they need to remember.
Yes. It's like players first. Yeah.
Yes,
write it
that's
down
right.
on my hand.
Yes. Yeah. We want to worry
right.
about the consuming, paying public that keeps us employed. Oh yeah, those guys.
People don't like just spending money on loot boxes. They like playing a game too. Ryan Landis is
But look,
asking,
they brought us this, okay, guys?
They brought us this.
Burnout Revenge.
10 years
EA.
ago.
EA brought us this.
10 years ago.
But they also work with Xbox so that it's here on Xbox One on the One S today, which is fantastic.
I have a question from Ryan Landis.
Yes.
It says, Vic, what do your insider sources at Xbox tell you about the E3 show this year? That's not really how it works, man.
I don't bug them.
They don't really tell you in advance.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
that's-
I would just get a lot of blank stares if I asked them. And
Yeah.
I've got a lot of long friendships and stuff that I don't want to jeopardize to get a scoop, or... That's why we don't really report too much on hearsay and random stuff, like...
Yeah.
We really like to know if it's confirmed and if it's legitimate, and then we'll get into it, and then we'll talk a little bit about the ramifications of it, but not so much about just being first with a maybe.
Your
and
car
full
is really... I
conjecture.
thought there was snow on your car.
No, it's really damaged. So I'm out. Oh,
Yeah,
I did one takedown. I did a good. Okay.
The
I'm not paying
game
enough attention.
industry is notoriously tight-lipped on things.
They have to be.
Yeah.
And there are lots of, friendships that are destroyed because people abuse, confidentiality.
Oh, I have a good one. Adrian Leon is asking, when do you think the Xbox One X will have a price cut? Didn't they just have one?
They'll have a price cut this year.
Yeah.
100%.
Didn't they? No, they cut the price of the S, right? Didn't they?
I think they've been sort of tweaking and adjusting the.
Oh no, I'm thinking of something else.
They've been adjusting and tweaking the prices on the Xboxes quite a bit since the X came out.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be big announcements for both the PlayStation and for the Xbox at E3 this year in terms of pricing, because we're going to be thinking and talking about the next gen very soon.
It's going to be another year before they start talking about next gen. There.
We might see something that shows the potential for next gen.
If the PS4 Pro and X hadn't come out, then I would agree with you, but
Yeah.
it's too soon for that. They have to wait at least another year. Otherwise, all these people who just bought the PS4 Pro are going to be pissed.
Hey, let us know if the audio is sounding okay, all right, you guys? I think it is, but...
It's, yeah, I was loud, but I cranked it down.
Okay.
So it should be...
Okay. This is intense. Oh! It's... You can't really... You have to give yourself over to the game to feel it in your gut, because this is one of those most intense games I've ever played in my life.
I have a really good one from Darkstorm CH007.
Okay.
If you could have any game that was canceled get released, what would it be?
Ooh,
Other than Half-Life 3.
I would have loved to have seen the Free Radical Star Wars Burnout, or Burnout. I got Burnout on the brain. Star Wars Battlefront game that they were working on. They were working on Battlefront 3, and then they went far into it. And the cancellation of that game pretty much effed up the whole studio.
Star Wars 1313 would be nice.
The Indiana Jones game.
Oh, yeah, that one. And what was the Dirty Harry game with Clint Eastwood?
Yeah, that wasn't a game. That's why it was canceled.
But I'm just thinking, would it be cool to have if it was a good open world Dirty Harry game with Clint Eastwood?
Yeah.
That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that opportunity.
If it were a good game.
Yeah, if it would have. Yeah, if it was good. Yeah.
Didn't we have a hard out at 2?
Oh yeah, what time?
You got 1 minute. You got 1 minute.
Okay, I got 1 minute.
Do you want to just start wrapping up now or finish Burnout?
I think we're good. Yeah, that was. You guys got a nice little taste of it. You guys know the deal. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Xbox for allowing Burnout Revenge to be played out there. I do have a hard out at 2 o'clock because I have some meetings that I have to take off for. But thank you, Workaway and Blade Blur and Ryan Landis and Adrian Leon and Chris Luclo, Lukiao and Top Shelf Gaming and Paul Adamson, Worko A, all you guys, Sammy M111. Thank you so much. It's very cool to see you all here. You know, we've got tons of other content for you to check out. Each one of the segments from EP Live is also put up individually, so you can, watch all those in their sort of unique state that way. If you dig what we do, don't forget to hit subscribe, that little bell for the notifications, which should work better. YouTube, fix that ish, all right? And if you're so inclined, that sponsorship button is always nice for us as well. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you tomorrow.